Afternoon. Please be upstanding for the Chair of the Council, Councillor Alcock. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Can I ask you all to remain standing for a moment, please? I would like to introduce Dr. Reverend Roy Lodge, MBE, to lead us in thought before today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, councillors, officers and members of the public. A brief thought for the day, followed by an even briefer prayer. Dan Walker, radio presenter and newsreader, in an interview with the Times newspaper, said this: "People tell me horrible stuff every single day. They shout at you, they send you terrible messages, they tell you what they think of you, particularly when you interview politicians. And it generally doesn't affect me. I know I'm valued by God, and that gives me a real sense of perspective. I don't allow the praise to take me too high, and I don't allow the rubbish to drag me too low." Words that may resonate with our own experience in life. So with these words in mind, may we have the strength of mind and heart in knowing how to deal with the praise and the rubbish that we sometimes encounter. Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send upon those who hold office in this district the spirit of wisdom, of discernment, with charity and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. I declare this meeting of Council open. You may now be please be seated. Right, welcome everybody to this full District Council meeting. I beg your pardon. Councillors, when addressing the meeting, can you please stand and ensure your microphone is switched on and that you speak directly into the microphone so it's picked up via the live audio feed. When you have finished addressing the meeting, can you please turn your microphone off immediately? Thank you. Right, item 1 on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. David, do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, yes, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillors Eden, Keithley, Pemberton, Petrovic, Shenton and Rolfe. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do any members or officers have any declarations of interest on items on the agenda? Councillor Coles, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I just wanted to register for item 9 that I am one of the Stratford Town Council trustee representatives on the Stratford Town Trust.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Pertigella, please.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to declare item 9. I've been appointed parish council champion for the Stratford-on-Avon District Council.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any more declaration of interest, please? Excuse me. Councillor Wally Hoggins, please.
Yeah, I am the appointed member for the Cotswold Protected National Landscape. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Crump.
I couldn't see, wasn't sure whether you saw me, Chairperson, so I thought I'd better wave. I'm the elected, I'm nominated member on the South and Grange Hall Committee.
Thank you. Do we have any other? Councillor Bromwich. Oh, goodness, everyone's hands shot up at the same time. Councillor Bromwich first, please.
Same as Councillor Crump, nominated steward on the Grange Hall Committee.
I'm going to bring in the monitoring officer. Bear with me one moment, please.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding some of the declarations being referenced today, can I just be clear where you are representing in your capacity as councillor? That's not a declaration specifically for which needs to be declared in the normal way. It's not pecuniary, it's not prejudicial, and it's not something that you would say you are predetermined on. So unless the Chair says otherwise, I don't think there's any need to go any further on that.
Following that, are there any more declarations of interest? No? Councillor Ostrander.
Sorry, Councillor Padgett.
I beg your pardon, I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay. Just to say I
Nerves.
am a member of the Grange Hall Committee as well, so I'm not sure. Thanks.
Thank you, and again, my apologies. Okay, right. Item 3 on the agenda, minutes. I now seek a proposer and a seconder for the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of February 2024. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Grocott. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The minutes agreed? Thank you. Item 4, announcements. So I'll move on to announcements first from me as the chair. And I've got some coming up on the screen. It has been a rather busy time, as I'm sure you'll all understand. So first of all, up there, I believe we have the Shakespeare Birthday Parade this weekend and the luncheon and also Civic Sunday, going to church, which all three have been wonderful, if not rather exhausting. I also attended the Leamington Spa Civic Council dinner and the Warwick Civic dinner as well. And Councillor Fradgley, as my deputy, has also been rather busy, especially as I broke my hand and found it difficult. She attended the Stratford-on-Avon fashion show, and she also attended Sir Gregory Doran's RSC tenure event. And I've also attended various meetings all across the district. I just want to bring everyone's attention, please, to this event. I would like this spread as far as we can possibly get it, please. The Prostate Awareness Testing event at the Stratford Leisure Centre. It is completely free and it is vital. I beg your pardon, sorry, it's a small contribution required for it. It's between it's on Sunday the 28th of April between 10 and 4 at Stratford Leisure Centre. So if we can try to get that spread out around our wards, it is something that is very, very important. Okay, thank you. And then second last one for me. As you'll probably be aware, this is a significant year for the council. The council was formed in 1974 and therefore just turning 50. And don't I look young for it. In order to mark this event, I'm proposing we extend light refreshments and invites for the AGM on May the 15th to past district councillors of the Stratford-on-Avon District Council. So that's just to let you know that. And then the final one for me, I am so proud of this person, James Morrison. James is somebody I've known for a little while now. In 2019, James was in a wheelchair leaving hospital. And he's also quite severely partially sighted. James has just completed the London Marathon running with his guide, Ollie Harrison. And what an achievement for him. He's worked so hard to get back there. and they've raised around £3,000 for their charity. And I'd just like to pass on the wishes of myself and this council to James and Ollie for that amazing event. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Councillor Gina, do you have any announcements? No, thank you. Chief Executive, would you have any announcements, please?
Just the one, Chair. Just wanted to bring members' attention to the date of the next meeting. The annual council meeting will be held, as Chair just mentioned, on Wednesday, the 15th of May at 11 a.m. And then the next full meeting of council will take place on Monday, the 8th of July. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Right. Item 5 on the agenda. The passing of former district councillors Maureen Hicks and Bill Dowling. I refer first of all to the death of former councillor Maureen Hicks, district councillor from 1979 to 1984. Councillor Hicks also served as a Member of Parliament for Wolverhampton North East constituency from 1987 to 1992. Do any members wish to address the council with memories of Councillor Hicks? Councillor Fradgley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I knew Maureen well before I became a councillor when she was involved in council work. She lived just over the road from us in Loxley Road, and we lived in Banbury Road. And I met her on a number of occasions as we were involved in similar kind of organisations throughout the town. Maureen was the director of Stratford Motor Museum in the early 80s and helped set up Stratford-on-Avon District Marketing, which was a body that actually helped retailers and local attractions in collaboration with the District Council. She had a deep interest in tourism. She was a voice for the town, and before she went on to become MP for Wolverhampton North East in the late 80s, where she served as a Conservative MP for one term, I believe. I was sad to hear, what she actually did, which was a huge amount of effort. She actually started the first park and ride iteration when the bus stopped at the Maybird Centre, which was much appreciated by local people. I was very sad to hear of her passing at the age only of 75. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley. Would any of the members like to speak about Councillor Hicks, the former Councillor Hicks? Okay, thank you. I'd like to move the following. That the Council notes with regret the death of former Councillor Maureen Hicks and extends its sympathy to her family and friends in their loss. Now I'd like to refer to the death of former District Councillor Bill Dowling, who represented Stratford Gildon Hathaway Ward from 2012 to 2015 and was a serving councillor for Stratford-upon-Avon Town Council since 2002. Do any members wish to address the council with memories of Bill? Councillor Fradgley, please.
Thank you. As a new town councillor back in 2003, when Bill had already actually won his place on the town council, that's where I first met him. And I served with him on the town council for 20 years, and so got to know him very well as a robust and very proactive town councillor. I also served with Bill at the district between 2012 and 2015, and he had two guiding passions. One was planning and one was CCTV, and he did his very best to make sure that the district was served in his time here to ensure that CCTV was as widespread as possible, and I think the district would thank him for that. So I'm very sad to see him no longer with us. So, Bill, man of Stratford, farewell.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley. Councillor Johnson, please.
Bill and I were both members of this council prior to 2015. My memory of him, frankly, is a really friendly, nice guy. And whether you were bowling in Snitterfield or at a quiz night in Holford, you knew you were going to be made welcome and you were going to enjoy yourself. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for that, David. So any other members who wish to speak about Bill? You see, I met Bill when at more town council than district council, but Bill was the one who always taught me, you can argue till you're blue in the face in council, but when you step outside, the conversation is finished and you're back to being friends. And if you're not, then that's when you go to the pub and you have a pint or a glass of wine and you sort it all out then. Which probably explains why Bill and I spent more times in pubs than what we did in council. He will be greatly missed for Stratford, and I will miss him myself. Thank you. I'd like to move the following, please. That the council notes with regret the death of former councillor Bill Dowling and extends its sympathy to his family and friends in their loss. Item 6 on the agenda, please, public participation. In accordance with the council's constitution, questions may only be asked when received by the head of paid service 2 clear days before the day of the meeting. Item 6 on the agenda is public participation, and we have received 5 questions from the public. So, question number 1. Mr. Jelly, are you present? Hello. Would you please approach the table? And you'll be allowed to ask 1 supplementary question. Okay? So, Councillor Juna, do you have the written question? Are they going to read it out? And you have 3, and sorry, bear with me 1 moment. Councillor Juna, are you ready to answer the written question, or are we having it read first?
The written question is on the paper. I'm happy to answer any supplementaries.
Mr. Jelly, you have 3 minutes for your question, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I want to build on the question that I asked prior to the meeting. Just to set a bit of context before I do, I work for Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, so I'm asking this question in the capacity of the Wildlife Trust. We work with all local authorities across Warwickshire, Coventry and Solihull, so we have a good insight into how local authorities are tackling the ecological emergency that you're discussing today. One of the things that we observe as a critical friend working alongside the local authorities is that this is often more challenging if councils are operating in a siloed working mentality. And we try and support councils to understand how things like the ecological emergency can bridge multiple council departments and deliver outcomes to the benefit of multiple council objectives. So for us, we can see that the ecological emergency presents a solution to many of the challenges that a council are facing if they take a holistic approach to this. So I welcome the response that Councillor Junid gave to us, but I wanted to highlight that the ecological emergency goes beyond green spaces in tackling people, place and environmental issues that the council are facing. So from the people's side, by putting in place the right measures to respond to the ecological emergency, the council can safeguard our children's future and make Stratford a nicer place for everyone to live. It can tackle the challenges that you're facing through place with tourism, land value and agricultural sustainability secured by the right policies and procedures that are implemented. And it can obviously tackle environmental issues such as the need to sequester carbon, clean the air and ensure that water is more sustainable in the future. So my supplementary question is, will the council establish mechanisms for organisations and the community representatives to act as critical friends to this process to ensure that you take a holistic view to the ecological emergency?
Can I thank you for your question? I have to say that I am a trustee of Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, so I do need to declare that at this point. But I was recently going through the local authority, the Climate Change Committee's local authority and the 6th carbon budget, doing a read of that. And they have a considerable amount of information on there about how local authorities such as ourselves can use the powers that we have. And we certainly need to use those powers because we're not only a key stakeholder in managed land, but we have particular powers over planning and planning committees and other parts of roles that we have to play within the council. We have to use all those skills one of the things that the Climate Change Committee said was that we should also look at our place-based partnerships. And I certainly welcome the fact that we need to work in partnerships because we don't have all the skills within the council, but we need to work with others. We have signed up to several partnerships recently, including the Coventry, Solihull and Warwickshire Capital Investment Strategy and others. And we would want to engage also, following what the Climate Change Committee recommended, that we should involve and engage and communicate. So that's not only working in partnership with those people that are working in this field, but also we need, through you and through others, to work with the residents and making sure that we are bringing forward their input into making sure that we are transforming for biodiversity and for net zero. We have to fully engage and understand the role that we have in this one and all the powers that we have. And it's my intention, as somebody whose PhD was in biodiversity, that we should do so.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. And thank you, Mr Jelly, for your question. Professor Collier, would you like to come to the table? Hello. And Councillor Juned, you have responded to the question?
Yes, again, it's on the paper that many of the necessary frameworks and the cross-departmental working were recently mentioned in the Cabinet papers where we discussed taking this nature emergency motion forward. And I'm looking forward to being able to engage with the new green space officers and the partnerships that I've mentioned in the previous question. But if you've got a supplementary, I'm happy to answer it.
You have a supplementary, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Juned, for your response to my question. My question was also in the context of the discussion about the ecological emergency. Again, to put my question in context, I'm a member of the board of the Warwickshire, Coventry and Solihull Local Nature Partnership, and we are helping Warwickshire County Council to deliver Warwickshire's local nature recovery strategy. And I wondered if you could expand on how the South Warwickshire Local Plan will be a key part of embedding biodiversity into future plans and what opportunities it will open up compared with the current situation. So how will it make a difference?
It will make a difference. One of the things that I was actually a mover of a motion about 3 years ago on the ecological emergency, and tried to raise the issue then. It wasn't accepted at that time, but it has been accepted now. At the time, it did mean that the local plan has taken on board a lot of the concerns that were raised at that time. It is a key part and a key of the way in which this council can work with communities to include and extend biodiversity. Given also that we have new legislation coming through as well, I think we should be able to do that. One of the things that the local plan does is consult. It has to be based on a consultation with the community on to make sure that it gets through the final stages and through the examination. One of the things we engaged with a couple of years ago in 2022, I think, 2022, was that we engaged with Warwick District Council and Stratford District Council on a grant that came from an outside body to engage and work with local communities and parish councils on all kinds of things to do with climate change and biodiversity and to influence the decision making that we needed to do. That programme still exists and still continues, and we will work with them, but also work with parish councils and other community groups as well to make sure that we are listening and taking on board their concerns. It is a matter of something that is very, very close to my heart, and I shall make sure that I do all that I can to support the idea of biodiversity within the district council area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gillette. Thank you, Professor Colley, for your question. Question 3, Ms Julie Hudson, please, if you'd like to come to the table. You've also had your response back in writing from Councillor Juned. If you have a supplementary question, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much indeed for giving me this time today. I'd like to follow up on my question by broadening it out a little bit and saying that as a resident, I'm really impressed by Stratford-on-Avon's Great Big Green Week. I suspect it's not known outside Stratford that we're leaders in this Great Big Green Week field of activity. The number of initiatives and people driving them seems to me to reflect a local hunger for cultural change. Does the Council agree with me that Stratford should become increasingly recognisable as a sustainable cultural hub? And if so, what might the Council do to support such an ambition?
Can I again say that I am a trustee of Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, I'm glad that you are a volunteer. When you look at some of the figures that have come from the way in which insect life and other life in our wildlife area has decreased enormously over the last few years, we do need to take action. So I'm really take it on board that people like yourself do so much volunteering and do help. One of the things that we need to do going forward is to not only deliver biodiversity enhancements through our future planning policy and the development control functions that we have, but that we engage with our communities to make sure that people like yourself are supported and that volunteers have the information that they need and have the ability to contribute to what the District Council is doing. I do appreciate that communication is key as well as training, and it is something that I think we could do more of putting on the website, the information of what we are already doing. If you looked at the Cabinet papers recently, we are doing a surprising amount, but we do need to tell people about it. So thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Juned. Question number 4, please. Ms Price, if you would like to approach the table. Hello and welcome. You've also had your response back in writing. You also have 3 minutes to ask a supplementary question. Hello.
God, I thought. Okay, thank you. So yeah, nice to see you all again. And I've seen the response. Thank you for that. First of all, I'm heartened by the number of people here asking questions today. I think I said in December that most people I'd spoken to were quite cynical about using this forum, and it's brilliant to see so many people stepping forward. And also I noticed that all the questions are about the climate and ecological emergency, which is of course what I'm interested in. So I think there's a kind of common concern in the public. And also I hear a desire for engagement and consultation, which is of course what we are asking for in XR, which is to have a formal citizens' assembly that would bring together the public in thinking about these issues for the benefit of the council and your decisions. My question in response to your reply, Councillor Juned, is what do I do? You say that officers will be in touch. What do I do if I don't hear from anyone? Because after I was here in December, I thought somebody was going to get in touch and they didn't. So how do we actually drive this forward into action?
Well, the request will come from myself that that people engage. Now, I do know that there are models of climate assemblies around the country. Warwick District Council, for example, it is very resource intensive and quite costly to do. Yeah. There are ways in which climate assemblies can be delivered. There is that kind of full model, but there's also ways in which you can develop forums working with other community organisations. We certainly need to do something because I note that, for example, the chairman of the Climate Change Committee just said recently that he's had 10 years of working on the Climate Change Committee, and he said the lesson he has learnt, above all else, is that early action benefits the people of this country and helps us meet the challenging of the coming decades more cheaply and more easily. And I couldn't agree more. By making sure that we engage and work through the organisations early, the better we will be fixed to solve them. The actual model is something that we could discuss and debate. But the fact that we are now getting this kind of question in indicates that it is moving up the agenda. However, I have noted that there are other people's points of view. We have to educate, communicate and work with as many people as possible. So I will try and see what we can do to engage with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Councillor Jeanette. Question number 5 on the table is Mr. Windsor. I don't believe he is here, though. He's not waving at me from the gallery, so not today then. Right. Moving on then to item 7 on the agenda. This is the Long Marston Neighbourhood Neighbourhood Development Plan. Can I invite Councillor Coucher, please, to introduce this report?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think after discussions about the environment and ecology, it's really good to see a part of our district who are really putting the priority of bringing forward a new neighbourhood plan. It's really, really important that we have up-to-date neighbourhood plans throughout the district, and I pay tribute to Marston Seeker Parish Council for pushing on this particular plan, and I know it's been strongly supported by local member Stuart Keithley, who's recovering from surgery, and I know he's been very supportive of it as well. So I'm very pleased that it's come forward. It's a very good plan. It's a very important part of our district because we have so much development pressure in that part of the district, and to see local community coming forward with very constructive proposals about how they want their community to develop for the future. So I would move that the Long Marston Neighbourhood Development Plan be adopted with immediate effect, with the consequence that it becomes part of the development plan for Stratford-on-Avon district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coucher. A seconder, please. Councillor Pertigella, thank you. Councillor Pertigella, are you seconding now, or you wish to remain the...
I would like to second it, and can I speak as well on this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? Anybody? Right, okay, Councillor Pertigella, you can speak now and then...
Thank you, Chair. As the former ward member for Long Marston, I saw the local plan process, the parish local plan process develop through the past years. So I'd also like to thank the Long Marston Parish Council and in particular the NDP working group for all their hard work on this important document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anybody else wish to speak? Then are we all in agreement, please, that this be adopted? Thank you, councillors. Right, on to item 8, please. Item 8 on the agenda is a change to the Planning Committee Vice Chairs. Could I please invite Councillor Gist to introduce this report to the meeting?
Thank you, Chair. This report presents a proposal to move to 1 Vice Chair of the Planning Committee from 2, in addition to the Chair of the Planning Committee. I'll just read the recommendations out, which are 1, that the Planning Committee operates with 1 Chair and 1 Vice Chair from the annual Council meeting on 15th.
Sorry, Councillor Gist, we cannot hear you. Could you speak slightly louder into the microphone so we can pick you up on the audio?
Is that better?
Thank you.
I'll read out the recommendations again then. 1 is that the Planning Committee operates with 1 Chair and 1 Vice Chair from the annual Council meeting on 15th of May 2024. 2, that the Monitoring Officer be authorised to make the necessary amendments to the Council's constitution and any other relevant documents to capture the changes. And 3, that any further amendments to the Council's constitution or any other relevant documents that may arise from the Independent Remuneration Panel review be delegated to the Monitoring Officer.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adams, do you second this, please?
Yeah, happy to second that, and I'll reserve my right to speak. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Can I just remind councillors to stand when they speak, please? Would anybody else like to speak on this, please? Councillor Wally-Hoggins. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to support this because whatever you need to do that. I'd also like to just pay a little bit of tribute, if I can, to any outgoing members from Planning Committee. It is quite the most busy and, I suppose, legally important committee that we have within the council, and I commend those that are currently on that planning committee. However, I would just ask this, that the Lib Dems get much better at providing substitutes for members on that committee who are not able to attend. And I ask this because we always, as Conservatives, endeavour to sub on that committee, and having a full complement on the planning committee is what our public expect, particularly from this committee, because having a full participation of committee members means that there is proper debate and questioning on applications, which is really important. But the smaller the number of councillors on planning committee means less debate, but by the very nature. So that's all the comment that I would like to make, and I realise it's a lot of work, hence the remuneration panel recommendations that will be coming forward later. So thank you indeed.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams, did you wish to speak again?
Thank you very much, and just to keep it brief, yes, I fully support what's going on here and the work that's been put in towards it, particularly in regards to the remuneration panel's recommendations. And yes, I do welcome Councillor Wally-Hoggins' comments on that, and we will always endeavour to make sure we have as many capable and suitable members of our planning committee in the interests of our district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Does anybody else wish to speak on this? We have a proposer and we have a seconder. Are we all agreed, councillors? Thank you very much. The recommendations noted in the report are approved. Item 9, minute 602, notice of motion, membership of outside bodies. At the Audit and Standing Committee meeting held on the 25th of March 2024 regarding notice of motion on the membership of outside bodies, can I please invite Councillor Rice to introduce the report as chairman of that committee?
Thank you, Chair. As you say, at the most recent meeting of the Audit and Standards Committee, a report was delivered by the Democratic Services Manager on outside bodies. He said there were many definitions of outside bodies, and the group, the working group, had agreed one which was felt to be relevant to the District Council's approach. And I thought it would be worth reading out that definition, which is an organisation which is independent of the District Council, which makes key decisions or assesses options that directly affect and or impact any District Council service. And he also mentioned that there would be that there was an amendment, and this was really a technical amendment, which is basically that the parish council champion is not an outside body in and of herself, and so the title was changed, and it was agreed at the meeting that the following should be recommended to council: that the recommendations from the working group be approved, subject to the amendment to the title of Parish Council Champion, and the list of outside bodies on the Council's website be updated accordingly. And secondly, that the working group monitor and review the list of outside bodies on an annual basis, and that the notice of motion be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Can I have a seconder for this one, please? Councillor Fradgley, thank you. Is there anybody who's wishing to speak on this, please? We have a proposer, we have a seconder. All in favour and in agreement? Thank you very much. That the recommend be noted in that report are approved. Item 10 on the agenda, minute 603, notice of motion on the Gender Neutrality Working Group. This is Audit and Standards Committee meeting held on the 25th of March 2024 regarding the notice of motion on the Gender Neutrality Working Group. Can I please invite Councillor Rice again to introduce this report as Chair of the Committee?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, at the same meeting, the Monitoring Officer introduced a report which presented the findings of the Gender Neutrality Working Group and proposed recommendations to the Constitution to be made to the Council today. I think it's worth saying that the changes will not be applied retrospectively and would only affect future publications and the revised Constitution. And something that's possibly missing from the paperwork that might be useful to know is that any amendment to the Constitution will take effect from the beginning of the municipal year in May 2024, which will be after the annual council, and that any change would not be retrospective and would not require any change to historical nameplates, portraits, boards, etc. But it would require changes to the following, including but not limited to the current chain of office, badges and nameplates. I thought it was worth mentioning that. Turning to the recommendations to the Council today, that the findings of the working group as detailed in the report be noted, that the findings of the working group be recommended at full Council today, and that the proposed date for the changes to be adopted be agreed as detailed in this report, and that responsibility to complete the amendments be delegated to the Democratic Services team within Law and Governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Can I have a second of this proposal, please? Councillor Fadji, would you like to, would you like to have the right to speak to the end? Thank you, Councillor Fadgley. Anyone else would like to speak on this? Councillor Crump, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Yeah, I will be supporting the recommendation. No problems with it at all. Unless it says one bit, it says there'll be opportunity to ensure there are no grammatical errors within the Constitution. And I was just reading the report, and it might be me, but I thought there's a place in here which says, in receiving the report, members noted that the changes would not be applied retrospectively and would only effect future publications and the revised Constitution. So I think it could be affect the Constitution. So just I thought I brought it out. And
Thank you for that, Councillor Crump. I'll be watching you for the rest of the meeting after that comment. Councillor Rice, please.
May I point out, Chair, that I actually read it correctly. So the pronunciation was affect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? Councillor Fadgley, would you like to speak now on this item?
Just that is a particular sort of combination of words that I always check in my head beforehand to make sure you've got it right. I'm glad to see that the Chair actually spoke it correctly, even if it was written incorrectly. And I hope that those anomalies won't be there in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fadgley. I have a proposer and I have a seconder. There's nobody else who wishes to speak on this. Are we all agreed for that to be approved? Thank you, councillors, that the recommendations noted in the report are approved. Right, item 11, minute 631, development requirements, supplementary planning document, part L, open space. I invite Councillor Coucher, please, portfolio holder for planning and economic development, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This is the end of a long saga in relation to how this council deals with public open space. In the past, we have seen a large number of management companies appointed to look after public open space around many of our housing developments. And I know that in many communities, those management companies are not popular, and those arrangements are not popular at all with local communities. What we have done in drafting this resolution is to look at how we are going to deal with this matter in the future. We can't deal retrospectively with decisions that have been taken in past years, and clearly the only way in which we can see future arrangements for public open space changing possibly from management companies to our colleagues in town and parish councils, or indeed the district council, is by the agreement of those parties, and I have to park that. That really is up to localities to undertake those negotiations. But for the future, we set out quite clearly in the statement that's been produced how we're going to deal with this going forward. Our preference is that when we do developments in our towns and in our villages, and where there is public open space, that it is actually then formally adopted by the authority in that area, be it the parish council or the town council. And that is done by negotiation, and it's done with a dowry that is passed on to that authority for the future maintenance of those areas. I am aware that we do have some very small parish councils and indeed parish meetings within the district where that may not be appropriate and may not be available. And in those circumstances, it is proposed that it is the district council that then becomes the default mechanism, and hopefully to pick up that responsibility in relation to the open space. Only in the most exceptional circumstances, and they really will have to be exceptional if I'm going to sign them off, would we actually appoint any more management companies for these type of areas, because we know just how unpopular they are. So we have a recommendation to Council today that the revised Part L of the Development Requirements Supplementary Planning Document set out in Appendix 1 to the agenda be adopted, and that delegated authority be given to the head of development in consultation with portfolio holder for planning and economic development to make minor editorial changes to Part L of the SBD should they be required. But I have to pay great tribute to the officers who I think have drafted a very good report and a very good recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coucher. Can I have a seconder for this, please? Councillor Junod.
Yes, it is actually, I think, about 4 years ago that I brought the residents of Kinnerton Farm Road in to speak to this council about exactly this issue, which was about private sector estate management on their estate. One of the things that Councillor Coucher has said is that this cannot be done retrospectively. Unfortunately, we cannot rectify some of the things that have gone on in the past. One of the things I'm hopeful of is that government will now take this up, because there was a recent report from the Competition and Markets Authority directly to government, which looked at the growing trend by developers of privately managed public community estate managers. There was a considerable amount of detail within that authority's report. So I'm hoping that that will now be taken further forward to Parliament. But meanwhile, the residents, I spoke to them this last weekend, and they are very, very thankful that at least notice has been taken of them coming forward and giving a petition to this council, and they're hopeful that maybe we will change the things going forward, but also that we will change the way in which government considers this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Junod. Is there any of the members who wish to speak on this matter, please? Oh, you are being very good to me today. Right, I have a proposer and I have a seconder. Do I have, are we all in agreement with this, please? Show of hands, please, councillors. Thank you very much. Agreed that the recommendations noted in the report are approved. Item 12, minutes 632, Stratford-on-Avon Gateway Site Framework Master Plan Supplementary Planning Document. Can I please invite Councillor Coucher, Portfolio Holder for Planning and Economic Development, to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is one of our key sites in Stratford. It's a very long saga again. I believe we've been promoting development on this site for about the last 12 years. I'm very pleased to say that we now have a very good SBD document which has been produced, and that is a pristine copy I was given just before Cabinet last week. This document obviously proposes very clear planning guidelines for how we wish to see a new Shakespeare Centre built in that area, and also development taking place actually at a very important entrance into Stratford town, on the corner of Arden Street, and also on the corner of Birmingham Road there. The document, I think, is a really good one. It's a very robust one. Now we've got to get the thing implemented, and that's another matter that I'm sure we'll be back discussing for the future. But I do believe that this planning document does provide us with a great basis for going forward, and a great basis for engaging, hopefully, with the funders that we need now to actually carry out this development. So, once again, I would make the recommendation that the Gateway Site Development Master Plan supplementary planning document as set out in Appendix 1 be adopted, and once again the delegated authority be given to the Head of Development in consultation with the portfolio holder for planning and economic development to make minor editorial changes to the Gateway Master Plan supplementary planning document should they be required. But I think we've gone over this document with a microscope. We have corrected Councillor Crump a number of errors of similar to what you've already pointed out in another paper today. So hopefully it is all absolutely correct, and thank you.
Wait up a moment, Councillor Crump. Just hold your horses. Let me do the proper thing first. Can I have a seconder for this, please? Councillor Juned, thank you.
I'll second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. OK, Councillor Crump, you may speak now. Please, about the item on the agenda.
Of course, Madam Chairperson. It is pleasing to hear Councillor Coucher, almost great minds thinking alike. And you could say it's a gateway to better cooperation and better reports with better grammar, and hopefully we'll all be singing from the same page. And being as it's just coming up to Shakespeare's birthday, I'm sure our reports will be fine and they won't be barred. So on that note, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crump. Councillor Wally Hoggins, please.
Yes, the Gateway project has been on the cards for a long number of years. And really, we were hopeful that this would be got over the line with regard to financing. And words in documents, grammatically correct or otherwise, mean very little if the financing in order to get these projects completed are not there. And I learnt with despair, really, that despite lots of groundwork being done by my Conservative colleagues in the previous administration, that regrettably a big chunk of financing for this project has been rejected. And I wondered, therefore, how much or how this administration is in fact going to finance what is an ambitious project here. That is it, really, because it is very beautiful and so forth. But at the end of the day, we can have all the projects that we will like and all the recommendations, but the Gateway project, there are some unsightly dwellings or buildings there that continue year after year getting into further disrepair. So really, although making amendments and making it robust is very important, I'm sure, to you, but actually what really matters is getting the finance to get this project properly off the ground. Thank you.
Can I just call on the Chief Executive, please?
Chair, thank you. To be clear, finances haven't been rejected at this stage. They've been deferred for a future meeting in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor Parker, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, frankly, Johnny come lately on this subject, having only been elected fairly recently, I have taken the time to kind of go through this, and I did go to the drop-in session in November that was held at the library, so I have tried to make myself understand this world of development, and frankly, if I hear the word or the words high quality development within the public realm again, I will scream, because I'm sure that is what the people who originally built the Gateway House thought when they were building that, and because there's no reflection on that in any of the words that I have read, it makes me worry that we are making the same folly again, and in 25 years' time, we'll be trying to discard this great piece of work for another piece of work. And my concern is, and again in the documentation, it refers to the fact that this is addressing the climate change, but this is just the demolishment of masses and masses of concrete and brick, some of which was built not that long ago, and it just, it seems incredible that there's no reflection on that in any of the documentation about how the folly could have happened. And then my last point I'd like to make is, coming to this as someone from outside, the first thing I wanted to see was the overall master plan for Stratford. And when I attended the library, that's the first thing I asked for, because I wanted to know how the Gateway project sat within this master plan. And I was frankly very disappointed that there was just nothing, and it's another piecemeal activity that may or may not link the canal quarter to the town centre. And so really, I kind of felt that there's plenty of looking through the magnifying glass, but there's not a lot of standing back and trying to work out where this sits in the wider scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have anybody else who wishes to speak on this? No, then I call back to you, Councillor Junod, please.
Yes, can I again reiterate what has already been said by the Chief Executive. This has not been refused, the funding. It has been delayed because there are mayoral elections ongoing at the moment, and these are the kind of decisions that can't be taken while there are elections, because of the it is the norm during election periods that you don't take certain decisions. So it's been coming to the June meeting, but also the District Council is continuing to work with the West Midlands Combined Authority on plans for the area. It is to open up the whole area to make sure that it is welcoming for residents as well as for visitors, and to make sure that we have a centre of excellence for Shakespeare, and making sure that we celebrate all that Shakespeare has to offer, but also the history of the town is celebrated as well. I think this will be a great improvement to an area, and I certainly know that we have the residents' support on this one, because I have spoken to several residents of that area that we do have their support. So I'm looking forward to June. I'm looking forward to working with the West Midlands Combined Authority. This will be the first step in making sure that we unlock the whole of this site. So I do welcome the motion, notice of motion, the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Junod. I have a proposer and I have a seconder. Can I see a show of hands, please, in favour for the recommendations in the report on approved? That is carried. Thank you very much. Item 13, minute 633. Notice of motion, the ecological emergency, biodiversity. This is a from a cabinet meeting held on the 15th of April 2024 regarding notice of motion. Can I please invite Councillor Coucher, portfolio holder for planning and economic development, to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it was a very good move by Councillor Passingham to propose the notice of motion, which we noted at the last meeting, and for my colleague Susan Ostrander to second it. Clearly, there is enormous pressure on our ecology here in Stratford district. This is a very precious district. It's a very precious country, but it's a very precious district, very dear to all of our hearts indeed. And we are under an enormous pressure, as we know, many of us involved in producing the South Warwickshire local plan at the moment. When government continuously berates us about building more houses, building more economic development, we are very keen to make sure that there is a really good balance and that we do look at our environment, look at our ecology, protect what we can, and enhance indeed what we can as well. And we've had some national legislation which has actually been helpful in that respect in recent times, and we're very keen to ensure that this council is taking an active part in how do we enhance and protect our ecology going forward. Yes, there is an ecological emergency, and yes, we need to address that in a positive stance. And economic growth is not the be-all and end-all to everything. We have to ensure that we're actually looking at our environment as strongly as we can as well. And that is something that we will be doing. We will be taking notice of that. And I know that those of us sitting on the South Warwickshire Local Plan Advisory Committee and myself as portfolio holder, working with our colleagues in Warwick, will be giving that a very high priority. And I know Dave Passingham also sits on that group as well, and will be taking a very keen interest in ensuring that we are ensuring that this is given the highest priority going forward. So today, I think we want to note, I think the very timely notice of motion that we had last time, and certainly to accept the sentiment within that motion going forward. It's extremely important and mustn't be in any way neglected. Thank you. So I move the Council's recommendation, that the ecological emergency, the declaration of an ecological emergency be supported, and that the responses to the notice of motion are endorsed.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I call for a seconder, please? Councillor Passingham.
So thank you, Councillor Coucher, for supporting this motion. And also, I'd like to recognise that Councillor Junid has been a champion of the environment and these issues over many years. And this motion was put in order to back her up in her work as the council leader, and to help that it supports that work and to raise the profile. So we're in a climate emergency, but why, when we see green fields and green spaces all around us, why are we still in a climate emergency? Well, sadly, these green spaces around us are monocultures. Biodiversity is being lost at an alarming rate, not just here, but in the whole country and in the whole world. And half our flowering plants have been lost from habitats since 1970, we were told in a recent report. It happens unnoticed. So we still notice the green spaces, but we don't notice that what is in those green spaces is gradually being depleted. Habitats and ecosystems are vitally important. They give us clean air, clean water, and clean food. They give us nature to enjoy, our health to enjoy, and they give us well-being. We need to stop destroying it and start restoring it. Start giving it space to thrive. Despite this going on all around us, we still have fragments of nature, valuable nature in the district. We have places such as the Lench Meadows, a wonderful mosaic of habitats all along the River Avon. with flood meadows, marshes, woodland, scrubland, and rich flora and fauna. We have the Heart of England forest, which is a patchwork of new and ancient, or semi-ancient, woodland that stretches from Studley all the way across the district and into Worcestershire. It's extremely important as a wildlife corridor, but it's only important as a wildlife corridor if it is joined up. So there's lots more work that needs to be doing in joining up all these spaces. So despite still having these gems, we're still one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. So why is this? Well, agricultural methods play a big part in that, but there's also inappropriate development, climate change, pollution, invasive species, and we could go on. I'm sure that we've all heard the reports of all these things that are affecting our wildlife in some way or another. So the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, and thank you for the speakers for supporting this motion, Warwickshire Wildlife Trust is calling for at least 30% of our land in the whole district to be connected and protected for wildlife by 2030. This is part of a bigger programme for the whole country. The council, the district council, can play a major part in this, obviously with planning policies such as the local plan, but also looking after the wildlife on its own estates. But it is much more than that. We need to lead the people of the district in all of us being involved in this. So we need partnerships with individuals, with communities, with businesses, and with landowners. So we need to restore wildlife in the district. This is just one step towards that. So now we need an action plan, a holistic action plan, as we've been asked by the Wildlife Trust. I'm not quite sure if the response that we've got has quite taken that on board. It needs to be a holistic action plan, and it needs to recognise that this is an emergency. So, thank you.
2 seconds to go. Well done, Councillor. Thank you for seconding that. Which of the members wish to speak on this, please? I have Councillor Bromwich, please.
Yeah, I think we all realise, at least I'd hope so, about problems we have with our ecology. Those that live out south and surrounding villages way, in particular with our raping of the whole lot with HS2, which has seriously affected us out this way, out that direction. And when we talk about these wildlife corridors, actually, we're going to have problems there because we have a supposed railway line which may or may not ever be completed. We're not sure. So that causes problems. But what we do have in our power as a district council is things like when it comes to planning, and we want to turn around and put our trees in place, which we tend to be very generic about. So if you spoke to my brother, he would turn around and say, why are you putting those silver birches there? Why not put an apple tree there? A simple thing. The apple tree not only benefits having a tree there, it also produces some fruit, it encourages insect and biodiversity. And it's things like that, sometimes small steps without you actually realising, have a major impact. So we're quick enough at this council, we've set up a climate change panel, but maybe what we need to be doing regarding the ecology is to actually have a panel and come up with some really good ideas which we can act on really simply, which actually won't cost the taxpayer money because it's actually going to be part of, say, your planning and your long-term thinking. I think if we go forward without starting to think what we insist, what's going to be planned with development, we're going to have things like central government, no matter which political party, is going to be trying to impose high house numbers. We will have to build those house numbers, regardless, But then we have to work out how do we mitigate those impacts within our remit. If we plan now and start bringing that in now, we can be preparing for a better long-term future. There is no reason to simply have a green hedge that doesn't have a purpose. There was plenty, again, I refer to fruit bushes, things like that, of wild nature, that encourage things that we should be insisting go into these places, on these open spaces, but we don't actually do it. We're sometimes so generic. We know, for instance, that weeping willows take up a lot of water, and if we're going to keep having increased rainfalls, then we have to start looking at areas where we want to plant species of that type of tree. These are the sort of things we need to be thinking about now when we want to declare an ecological emergency, because planning now and giving a good lot of thought will have so much more benefit in the long term.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grocott, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare my support for this motion and also confirm that as portfolio holder for the Environmental and Abled Services, I will be supporting my offices in progressing the 8 initiatives stated in Section 2 of the Cabinet paper. The new grounds maintenance contract was recently awarded and officers took key elements from the Lib Dem manifesto on action for climate change and environmental sustainability, and I'm pleased that the new grounds maintenance contract reflects these commitments and includes actions to phase out use of glyphosate-based weed killers and promote practices to support biodiversity. Similarly, we'll be doing all we can in our parks and open spaces, along with parish and town councils, to support biodiversity and also our green spaces going forwards. I would like to thank Councillors Passington and Ostrander for bringing this motion forward, and I will progress the operational activities to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grocott. Councillor Junod, please.
Yes, I'm happy to back this this notice of motion as well. I actually presented a report to the council as a councillor in 2003, where one of the recommendations that I then gave to the then cabinet was that there should be support for biodiversity action plans. That was in 2003. In 2019, the government's State of Nature report suggested that there'd been a 13% decline in the average abundance of wildlife in the UK since the 1970s. In the more recent 2023 State of Nature report, that decline has strengthened. There they said the decline in average abundance was 19%, and that covered all groups, for insects, birds, everything that you could call and classify under biodiversity. We have a wealth of data, and we have had a wealth of data since the 2000s to show that there is a decline and that we need to do something about it. There has been, by all measures, by everybody that is involved in this field, a retrospective recognition that we haven't done things fast enough, or indeed in more detail enough over many, many years, and it's about time that we change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Junod. Councillor Whalley-Hoggins, please.
Yes, I fully support this, but there is a huge amount of work that needs to be done with this, and there are, I mean, I don't think that we should underestimate that. For example, developers at the moment, very near to me, have just chopped trees down, then they come for retrospective planning permission, and it's given, because don't worry, they're just going to plant some new trees. Actually, new trees, when trees have been there for over 100 years, it is truly heartbreaking. So the wider implications of this for planning committees, for planning officers, is massive. And really, it's all very well and good nodding this through and saying, yes, this is a great idea, but the implications should not be underestimated, because we need to be stronger and we need to be louder and we need to be prouder in what we're doing here. And saying to developers, no, you've chopped that tree down, here's a nice big fat fine so that you don't do it again. And I don't mean an arbitrary 1,200 quid, because that's nothing. You know, we're talking the mega bucks here. And we need to have the officers in place that will be as robust as that and feel enabled and protected in order to do that, because it's that important. The loss of a mature tree has implications for wildlife like no other. The best bit of legislation that I heard 2 weeks ago with regard to this was that, well, don't worry, the tree surgeons that go on site, they just have to do a little check to make sure there are no nesting birds. And I'll tell you now, heartbreakingly, I found a bird's nest in my garden, 2 broken eggs in it from trees. It is heartbreaking. What if they miss that nest? It's literally a whoops-a-daisy, we didn't see that. You know, and that is the way we're at. So we either get stronger and prouder with what we're doing at Stratford District Council and say, hey, up with this, we will not put, because this is not an isolated case. This goes on time and time again, that they all know they don't want the mature trees because the root system gets in the way of building and so forth. So I say this, great, but the implications of this is massive. Have you got the officer capacity in order to really ensure that this does make a much deserved difference to our residents and the wildlife and ecological difference to the area? Because we mustn't do this half-heartedly, we have to do it properly, and with that you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Strander, please.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. I really am happy to be supporting this essential motion brought by Dave Passingham, the Green Party, and thank you very much for our visitors who've come and spoken on this topic and everyone else who's contributed to this debate. As has already been mentioned, this was previously brought to this council in the past. Unfortunately, at that time, it was rejected. I just want to echo the comment made by Councillor Junit earlier that the sooner we act, the better on all of these sorts of matters. So it's great that we are choosing to act now. Personally, as someone who's taught biology to our next generation who are following hot in our footsteps, I'm very aware of the interdependence of all living things. Sadly, our policymakers have frequently overlooked this critical interdependence, and the consequences of this neglect are stark globally. The State of Nature Partnership report of 2023 states that wildlife in England has declined in abundance by 32%. That's a third since 1970. Many of us in this room will recall having to clean dead insects off of our car windscreens after a long drive in the summertime. It was often my chore to do after a family holiday. No longer. And this is because the distribution of invertebrates has decreased by 18% on average since 1970. And of course, with that comes a corresponding decline in common bird species that rely on these insects of 16%. One particular bird species that is, of course, synonymous with summer in the UK is the swift. With their distinctive, noisy aerial acrobatics, they used to be a regular feature of summer. Yet their numbers have dropped by a staggering 50% since 1995, and they are now on the red list for conservation. And their numbers have dropped in part because they like to nest in houses and churches, squeezing through little tiny gaps to nest inside roofs. But as old buildings get renovated and gaps in soffits are closed up, particularly in new builds, their nesting spaces have seriously declined. The introduction of swift bricks into new builds is possibly one easy way that we could help. And of course, planning has been mentioned in this debate. Where these have been installed in new builds, colonies have been able to rebuild in size. Swift boxes too can help, and I'm delighted that in my ward of Harbury, one of the residents has taken a keen interest and persuaded the parish council to invest a number of these for the village. We can all do our part in this emergency. Given how easy some of these changes are and the huge improvement they can be for nature, I was appalled to discover that in March of 2023, Stratford District Council scored 0% on their climate action scorecard for biodiversity, which prompted me to second this motion initially. This abysmal score was based on some simple yet unimplemented changes, such as using peat-free compost, doing less mowing, and not using pesticides. Fortunately, many of these are already being addressed with our new council leadership. However, there is still a long way to go, and that is why I wholeheartedly will be supporting this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pertigella, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In 2022, Councillor Juned and I submitted a motion on declaring a biodiversity emergency, and this was rejected by the Conservative Cabinet. So I am heartened that the group today will support this motion. So therefore, can I thank Councillor Passingham and Councillor Ostrander for submitting this important motion. It's absolutely fundamental that as Stratford District Council we provide leadership on this and work with our communities and partners to reverse the decline of biodiversity locally. A healthy biodiverse environment will also contribute to our future prosperity and the health and well-being of all our residents. Personally, I look forward to shaping our planning policy in the South Warwickshire Local Plan, which would ensure nature recovery and biodiversity enhancements. I would also like to see designations of more local green spaces rich in nature and wildlife throughout Stratford-on-Avon district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pertigella. Councillor Adams, please.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the strong support that we've had in the debate so far for this motion. I think it's incredibly encouraging. The thing I just make sure to raise, which hasn't really been mentioned, is to carry agricultural businesses and farmers with us in this. We are a rural district with agricultural business forming a large part of our economic development, and I just want to make sure that, albeit there's limited availability for us to interject within that sector, it's certainly something we need to consider as leaders within this area, working with the legislation available to us from government, working with partners such as the NFU and others, so that we make sure that all parts of our district are taken with us. And that's just something very significant, particularly talking about wildlife corridors, things like that. You know, farmers are the stewards of our land, and we just need to remember that when having this debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hatch, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to just point out three things about the report in relationship to this motion, which I clearly fully support. It would have been great to have an action plan which would have brought all the initiatives mentioned in the report together, so they were all sort of solidified in policy. Warwick District have just brought out a biodiversity action plan, which is good reading and delivers benefit. You know, their byline is it delivers benefits for wildlife and people. The other point was the officers are exploring how to encourage town and parish councils to deliver biodiversity initiatives. I would like to point out that Professor Collier is already working on this with WALC, and perhaps the officers could get in touch with their workshops on climate action programs that they're putting together. And finally, the Green Spaces Officer, this is a question really, are they going to be ecologically trained? Can they be ecologists and work with the Warwickshire County Council ecologist? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hatch. Does any of the members wish to speak on this, please? Okay. Well, I have a proposer and I have a seconder. Can we have a show of hands in agreement that the recommendations are noted in the report are approved? That's carried. Thank you all very much. We'll move swiftly on to councillor questions and following by questions to the leader. Had a wonderful phrase heard this weekend over the Shakespeare celebrations. More is often too much, which is one that stuck with me all weekend. So if we can keep any supplementary questions short and to the point, please. First question, Councillor Rice. Councillor Rice, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chair. No, I do not.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Sorry, just bear with me. I've got my list of questions. Oh, thank you. Councillor Shenton is absent. And that's for both questions. Councillor Bromwich, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed. First of all, thank you very much for the response. I note with interest this response. I do feel, however, there should have been some sort of declaration of interest, Councillor Junid, in your relationships in a professional capacity with members of Senex previously. What I would turn around and say is this. It's all very fine reading research papers, but it has to be balanced, and you have to look at all sides of the argument. Now, for 3 months, I've circulated emails round here, and I've put a lot of data out, and I've had nothing to deny what has been put out there. Could you, therefore, the various research papers you have referred to in the response to this question, and various other academic papers, can you forward them to me, please?
Councillor Junid to respond, please.
Number one, I don't have to declare any interest because I've never worked in the same organisation or had any income or anything for any of these organisations. But, you know, professionally, when I did work at DEFRA, I knew an awful lot of people. And when I worked at the University of Birmingham, I knew an awful lot of people in the academic field. And when I've worked at Royal Agricultural Society for England, I got to know. But I've never had an income from any of these.
Sorry, Councillor, could you speak into your microphone? We're struggling to hear you at the back of the room.
So I don't need to declare an interest in that case. I think we are missing the point about all this thing, that we have a climate emergency. The main thing is about climate change, and we forget that at our peril. The main proponent, the main part of climate change is the main component that adds to climate change is transport. The main part of that component is fossil fuels and the burning of fossil fuels by humans. And we have to remember that we have to transition away from that as a means to tackle climate change. One of the things I think a lot of people don't realise is that if you are driving a car that works on petrol or diesel, you are already using biofuel in your car. There is already 5 or 10% of biofuels being used in petrol or diesel. And I think you need to recognise that. There are a lot of councils now across the country working in this field and who've recognised that there is need to transition. And until we get electric vehicles that can do the waste collection, we have to have a transition strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Junid. Councillor Bromwich, do you have a supplementary question for your second question, please?
I do indeed. As previously mentioned, I asked for some research papers and didn't get an answer on that. Instead, I got a statement. Again, I put before here evidence which suggests from source to tailpipe that HVO fuel could actually increase our CO2 emissions. That concerns me. Just because other organisations have adopted without doing the research, that is like turning around saying, if they said jump in the sea, we'd actually go ahead and do it. What I have put forward here is a definitive paper which was submitted to an international body. The research there suggests that CO2 emissions from source to tailpipe using HVO fuel, and this is not even recycled HVO fuel from recycled oil, has more CO2 emissions than diesel from source to tailpipe. That concerns me because we should not be increasing our carbon footprint. Councillor Junid, I have given you an opportunity on the first question to answer me and say, I will supply you the information which would turn around and suggest that what you have said is wrong. Again, I put it to you, supply me the information from source to tailpipe that HVO fuel definitively will reduce CO2 emissions, not just in Stratford district, but globally. We are a whole world. This turns round and says, well, we can reduce it in our little bit, but it's the rest of the world doesn't matter. I'm concerned about the whole world. If I want CO2 reduction, I don't want it in a little area, I want it globally. Will you produce the evidence from source to tailpipe to substantiate your claim HVO fuel will reduce our CO2 emissions?
Thank you, Councillor. Susan Juned to respond, please.
I can produce for you not only all the research, that I don't think you will want all that research, but also the cabinet reports of about 50 councils that have adopted HVO as a transition fuel.
Thank you. Not shouting out.
One paper doesn't substantiate evidence at all. What we have to remember, again, is that the damage that fossil fuels are actually doing, that with the fact that we have to transition away from them. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is now 50% higher than it was before the Industrial Revolution. And it's the annual rate of increase over the past 60 years at about 100 times faster than previous natural increases. And these have been because of human activity, mainly the burning of fossil fuels. One of the things that we also have to consider is not only CO2, but security, because the portion of imported crude oil that is coming into this country is mainly coming from a narrower and narrower range of organisations, including Algeria, Angola, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. And it's one of the things that is having a detrimental impact on this country is the UK's reliance on fossil fuels for 78% of the energy it needs. It's one of the things that we do have to transition away from. There is plenty of organisations and plenty of research that has been done on ways in which this can be done, including the use of biofuels. The answer that has been given in the response to your question is that the research that is available shows that there is significant CO2 reductions, up to 90%, when compared with diesel that the trucks currently use. It's a renewable fuel from waste materials. Provided it's properly certificated, which we will insist on, it should be from waste materials using renewable transport fuel obligation standards. It should be, again, seen as a transition method until such time as we're able to get electric vehicles or other renewable fuel vehicles to be able to into our waste fleet. As I say, there's about 50 councils across the country, including our neighbour Wychavon, that uses HVO. And indeed, it is also one of the things that has been considered by North Warwickshire councils, and I understand it's also under consideration by Warwickshire County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. That is the end. Thank you. That is it. Thank you, Councillor. Right. I am now calling for a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you. Please. Can I please note that up to 30 minutes will be allowed for questions, with each councillor permitted to speak for no more than 3 minutes and may ask no more than 2 questions. So please, due to the time constraint, please do keep your questions concise. Right. And please note, for the duration of this item, I'll taking the order of questions sequentially by political balance. Does anybody have any questions to the leader, please?
Can I please ask you to just keep your hands raised for a minute while I just take a note of the name? Thank you. Councillor Fradgley, Rock, and Parry, Trevor Harvey.
Right. Can I call upon Councillor Jenny Fradgley, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As my question's kind of along the theme of today, which is a green theme, and it's, according to my grandchildren, it's the theme of their futures. I'm chair of the Town Council Climate Change Group, and we are joining with local groups to actually work out ways in which we can develop the town's approach to, in particular, biodiversity. So what I'd like to ask is, how is the district listening and talking to town and parish councils, residents and community groups, which are beginning to work or have been working for some time to both reduce their carbon footprint and increase their biodiversity across the district? Thank you.
Councillor Juned, please.
Thank you very much indeed. That's a really useful question, because one of the things that we did earlier in 2022, Stratford District Council and Warwick District Council started a programme where they would use an outside grant to engage and empower local communities and work with parish and town councils on the whole idea of climate engagement, but biodiversity as well. We are supportive of a whole range of volunteer organisations and not-for-profit organisations that work in partnership across this council, and it is crucial that we go forward, that we do take account of what's happening in our parish and town councils and that we work with them. I have undertaken to start visiting 2 parish councils and town councils to listen to what they want to do. I have already started that programme. It's going to be a long one. It will take quite some time to do, but I've already spoken to representatives from Henley Parish Council. I visited Southern Parish Council at their invite, and they were extremely, found something extremely oh, sorry, Southern Town Council. No, in my notes it was Town Council. And Wellesbourne and Walton Parish Council, Colton Parish Council, Ulster Town Council and Great Orme Parish Council. And I hope to be able to work with others. I'm due to meet with Shipston Town Council fairly soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. Councillor Parry, please.
Thank you, Leader. I would just find it really helpful if you could provide a detailed update on the progress that's been made on the development of the South Warwickshire Local Plan over the last 12 months, and what are the timescales in respect of phases going forward. I'm continually being asked by residents and parish councils for an update, because the last time we heard it had been delayed for various processes. I do think we need to increase the communication, and we're now 12 months, and I would really welcome an update. Thank you.
I'm just wondering whether I could actually ask one of my portfolio holders to answer that question. Is that something that is allowed on this one? No. In which case, could I ask Yeah, could I ask that you engage with the portfolio holders after the council to have that update? It is quite crucial that you are able to get that information back to the people that have asked you those questions, and I would like to make sure that is done. So please, could you make sure that you speak to the portfolio holders and get the correct information in order to take that back?
Your second question, Councillor Parry?
Well, it really refers to that. Thank you very much. That would be really helpful. But I actually think it's really important that we have an update that is recorded in full council so that everybody who are tuning into council and members of the public can really understand an update rather than having it. I mean, I shall welcome having that update directly, but I do think on such one of the biggest things that you are being progressing, that it needs to be public. And, you know, I think it would be very helpful, particularly as someone in PR and marketing, if we could make a statement to the Stratford Herald and other media for an update, because this is so important, and I'm just a bit concerned things are a little bit delayed. Thank you.
I shall make sure that a proper information sheet is made available to all councillors so that you can spread that message and take it through to your council. There's not a lot of people actually will take it from the website or from this meeting. It is much more productive if you're able to have an information sheet, and I shall make sure that that's available.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. Councillor Rock, please, your question.
Thank you, Chair. Would the leader please note the visit of Nazanin and Richard Zazari Radcliffe to our district, just 2 years after Nazanin's release from Iran? Nazanin and Richard attended and spoke at an impressive event organised by Amnesty International, a group of sixth formers at Southam College last Thursday. Many members will be aware of my connection with the family, and I was delighted to meet and speak with Nazanin at last. Richard made it clear to me that in various forms, local groups made a big difference to the family. Would the leader allow me to pass on the thanks of Nazanin and Richard to the members past and present of this council for their support during Nazanin's incarceration, and to any other residents of the district that helped in their campaign for freedom in any way?
I would be most grateful to be able to do that. I'm happy to do that. I do remember that this issue being raised in September 2021. At the time, the leader wrote to the Foreign Secretary after the meeting on that day, and councillors in this chamber wore flower badges to be able to indicate their support for Nazanin and her family. It's something that we really should appreciate, because I certainly appreciate the way in which she and her family, the resilience that they showed under some very, very difficult circumstances. It was noted that she was released on the 16th of April 2022, and I'm glad that that happened, and I'm very, very glad indeed to be able to pass on to her and her family our wishes, good wishes, and thanks for all that they have done to raise the awareness of what some people have to go through in certain countries.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bromwich, please.
Yeah. Obviously, this district council has its policies regarding housing. However, policies can sometimes be flawed, and policies are not absolutes. They do not have to be stuck and adhered to. Why am I pointing out? I'm pointing out because this is in relation to a very sensitive case that currently on my ward, there is a young gentleman who on the 17th of May will be without any housing. Our current policy says, as he is a single male, he is entitled to a one-bedroom place or a two-bedroom upstairs flat. This poor lad, as I said, has mental health issues. This is very distressing to him. Sometimes we have to start thinking, one, is our policies right? Two, do we allow enough flexibility? He is now getting towards the end of his time in that property and getting very, very distressed. I have no doubts even if it's a person without mental health issues, they would too be very distressed. What we need to know, Leader, is, first of all, and I'm going to two-part this, are we going to have a proper housing policy review in relation to entitlement? And number two, how are we going to best help this resident?
Our housing policy is always under review, and it's one of the things that we're committed to doing as part of our ongoing council plan and the finance that is attached to that, to do some scoping on the provision of affordable homes. It is, as somebody who comes from an area, Ulster, where there is considerable need for affordable homes and for people to stay local to their communities, I do sympathise with your concerns. One of the things that, after you put an email round to all of us about addressing some of the needs of people in your area, I did get one of the district council officers to contact you. Well, I do hope that that was helpful. There was about, I think, 3 cases, which I hope he was able to help you with, because it's something that it is a need. There is we are in one of the most expensive, not only areas for buying houses, but also for rental of houses. There is a great need for people, local people, young people, to get affordable housing, and it's something we are tackling, and we do need to tackle much more as we go through this next year. It is on the programme, so we will update you as that programme develops. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grocott, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to see that solar panels will be installed on the roof of Stratford Leisure Centre, funded by the award of a grant of £283,000 from Phase 2 of the Government Swimming Pool Support Fund, which provides capital funding to help swimming pools become more energy efficient. I'm sure the Leader will agree this is an excellent way for Stratford District Council to save on energy bills and reduce our carbon emissions. And will join me in thanking the officers for their hard work in securing this funding. As the Conservatives were keen to spend £50,000 on our budget on putting solar panels on top of car parks, I'm sure they also will be pleased to hear that Liberal Democrats have already started placing PV arrays on Stratford District Council buildings. However, more importantly, I'm interested in the Leader's plans in expanding the rollout of solar panels on SDC property, such as car parks, throughout the district, and what alternative proposals are you considering to further reducing the Stratford District Council carbon footprint? Would you please elaborate on these plans? Thank you.
Yes, I'd be happy to do so. What we already knew during the budget that we had been successful in winning the £283,000 from the swimming pool fund, but unfortunately it was embargoed at the time, so we were not able to mention it during the budget process, but we knew that we'd got that money. 283,000 is a considerable sum, but it's not the only sum that of applications that we are applying for. We have an incredible group of council officers who are doing work as we speak on decarbonisation, not only of this building, but of all the buildings that are owned by the district council. It is quite crucial that we do tackle that decarbonisation. And some of that will be done by solar panels, but some of it will be done by other energy efficiency measures. We do need to make sure that we are addressing all our buildings. More importantly as well, we need to also get through to the wider community and other organisations about the importance of decarbonisation. I have to say that the interest in the community climate change has been considerable, and some of the applications are absolutely inspiring that are coming forward. I do hope I will be able to tell you more once we've gone through and done the assessment of that, but many of those are looking at decarbonisation, but also communicating and engaging with our communities to make sure that we are tackling this major problem.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harvey, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Councillor Junid, in your party's manifesto last year, it included a statement that transparency, openness, honesty and competence has to be at the heart of all that we do in local politics. this is a reflection of the Nolan principles by which all councillors of whatever party are bound. The Nolan principle on openness makes clear information should not be withheld from the public unless there are clear and lawful reasons for so doing. The feedback report of the Planning Advisory Service and the Local Government Association was finally issued on the 29th of January 2024. Rather than this report being distributed to councillors in an open and transparent way, the contents were deliberately withheld by your administration for 69 days until it was circulated on the 7th of April by David Buckland. Therefore, Councillor Junior, could you please tell councillors whether it was yourself or the relevant portfolio holder who made the decision to keep this report secret? What were the clear and lawful reasons for doing so? Did the monitoring officer give her endorsement to those clear and lawful reasons? What changed during those 69 days that removed the clear and lawful reasons for secrecy? And what benefit has there been to the council in having chosen deliberately to keep councillors needlessly in the dark for more than 2 months in apparent breach of the Nolan principles? And furthermore, given that the LGA has undertaken a peer review exercise of the council in early March of this year, could you give all councillors your personal assurance that the complete and unadulterated feedback report from that exercise will be circulated to all councillors within 24 hours of it being received by the administration in compliance with your obligations under the Nolan principles, please?
Sorry, before you answer that, Leader, Councillor Harvey, which 2 of those questions would you like answered?
I will leave that to the Leader.
Can I just say that the peer review was extremely welcomed, but it is a peer review of our staff and the way that they work. One of the things about this is to manage the expectations but also the outcomes. It was a good review, but it was an officer's decision that they needed to brief the staff, work with the staff and make sure that the staff understood what issues were raised in that report. It is quite crucial that we take our officers and our staff with us, and that is what we aim to do. You have to recognise also that the LGA themselves don't return these reports overnight. They also have something like 5 to 6 weeks before they actually return their reports. We're looking forward to the next peer review report back as well. There's a lot to be done to make sure that we manage what has been a legacy that has been left behind from previous administrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. Councillor Pettigella, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leader, I understand that a follow-up meeting has been planned between Stratford District Council and Warwickshire County Council leadership about the most urgent of issues, infrastructure, and including transport as well, which obviously is of interest to our residents, especially here in the town of Stratford. Can the leader tell me when might this meeting be happening?
Yes, Councillor Pettigella, I can let you know that meeting is to take place in May. The officers were extremely helpful at Warwickshire County Council, as they have been here, and we had the initial meeting, and it is to be followed up. So thank you indeed for your question. I do appreciate it.
Councillor Hatch, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just to repeat what I should have said now in the ecological emergency debate, a question about the Green Spaces Officer. Will they be ecologically trained, and wouldn't it be good to have an in-house ecologist rather than relying on the county council's ecologist?
I'm afraid I have not had sight of the actual job description, but it is normal for somebody who has a Green Spaces officer a job application for them to have relevant experience and relevant education. I will take that up with officers, but I haven't actually seen the job application because it's not usual for councillors to see that degree of detail. That is for the management of the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question continues the green theme. I'm sure many of the environmental groups in the district will be very heartened by the debate that we had earlier declaring ecological emergency. So with these sorts of groups in mind, I would like to ask the leader when we will know the outcome of the Community Climate Change Fund applications. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the actual assessment. We had a full 3 hours on assessing those this morning. We have another session next week on assessing them. There were some very good applications put in. It requires a lot of detailed assessment of them. They're all very, very different, and we will try and make those available as soon as we've done the assessment. It behoves us to get back to people as soon as we can. So next week is when we finally look at the actual assessment, and then of course it has to go through the normal process of being reported to the relevant committees. But it won't be long.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. If there's no more questions, then we can move on to item 16, notice of motion update. That is for information only. So I will move straight on to item 17, motions notice. We have one motion on notice. In accordance with council procedure rules, once proposed and seconded, the motion will be referred to Audit and Standards Committee for consideration and report without debate. Can I please invite Councillor Padgham to propose the motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose this motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. And could I please ask Councillor Coles to second this motion?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor. That will be moved to Audits and Standards. Item 18, urgent business. I don't believe we have any urgent business. So on that note then, Councillor, I would like to declare this meeting closed. Oh.